Greetings and welcome to the Semicolon Podcast. My name is Ralph Cantave and I am your host, and it is a great pleasure to have you here joining me for episode number 6 of the Semicolon Podcast, where we seek to answer one main question. And that question is, does the story continue or does it end? Here at the Semicolon Podcast, the purpose for creating it is to simply be able to provide you with the necessary information and raise awareness of the world around you, and to give you the encouragement to keep moving forward no matter what. Because guess what? Despite the challenges, tribulations, and difficulties that you may encounter in life, life continues, and so will we. And that is why, in particular for today's episode, the podcast is all about the topic of hope. There is still hope. There is still hope. Believe and say it with me. There is still hope. There's still hope for St. Martin. There's still hope for you. There's still hope for your family. There's still hope for your loved ones, your friends. There is still hope. And on today's episode, I want to particularly share 2 impactful stories that really stood out to me this past week. And 2 stories of individuals that I believe is one that touched the heart of this nation as well, and that can be shared all around the world really, and to showcase that there is still good in this land. There's still positivity around us. If we look hard enough, we will see the light. We will see goodness in St. Martin. And so, as a journalist, especially as someone who, when I put on my investigative journalism cap, you tend to uncover a lot of dark things. You tend to become aware and knowledgeable about some stuff that sometimes you don't even wish to know. But while that can make you maybe depressed or just make you feel a bit wanting to be far off from some of the things you uncover, again, life continues. And that is the whole purpose for naming this podcast the Semicolon, which is the part of encouragement that I want to really settle on for today, because it is necessary, it's needed, not just for me, but also for you. So the Semicolon, for those of you who maybe have missed the first episode, the reason for even giving it this title is simply because the semicolon is a punctuation mark, used in writing, the literary device, I guess you can even say, where instead of the author using a full stop or period to say, the story's over, that's it. I said what I had to say, there's nothing more to add. The semicolon is basically used to say, while I could have ended, here's a little more. I choose to continue. And that is really a mindset that is so needed for us to be able to thrive and succeed in life, period. Especially on this island. Because there are people who are out here hurting. While there may be people you encounter with great and beautiful smiles and people who laugh very often, you don't know the challenges and the pain that people go through at home, the suffering that people endure even as they're walking or driving, right? And so we need to be able to inspire each other, motivate each other, shed light and speak life as well over this island, but to each other and over our lives. The reality is, it may not seem so, because structurally, physically, the island has moved on. While you can still see scars, and notice that while you can still see scars, Hurricane Irma was so devastating. And there are people who have not fully recovered from that experience. Worse yet, we had the COVID-19 pandemic, something majority of us, never experienced, don't know anything about. And that is still very fresh. So imagine the pain that has been compounded upon this island and people in general. So that while we think, everything is all right, man, tourism is back, we're making money, we finally have a government that seems like it will last a full term and everything is great, sometimes that's not the case. And so we need to maintain our hope that tomorrow will be a better day, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that although weeping may endure for a night, gladness, joy, peace, happiness will come in the morning. It will. It certainly will. That is why the topic for today is, there is still hope. There is still hope for St. Martin. There is still hope for your family. There is still hope for you and your loved ones, your friends. There is still hope. And so before I get into the story that I would like to share, I do want to, of course, first of all, I actually want to congratulate all the students and the families, of students who have been celebrating the fact that many of our students from the primary school are now heading over to secondary school. Congratulations to all the schools, the teachers, the families, and the students themselves for such a great feat, for such a great advancement. And I do want to particularly mention a very important special that is geared towards the people who help make that happen, which is our teachers. Now, I can't help but mention that I'm happy that the teachers got the vacation pay, which they deserve, and after having to fight for it in the last 2 years, God bless you, it is a great joy. But the opportunity that is specifically geared to you teachers is this. The Bel Air Beach Hotel is back with their timely special to make your summer vacation worthwhile. This offer is backed by popular demand, allowing teachers to enjoy a double occupancy booking with a minimum stay of 2 nights for just $100 per night. You deserve great service, true comfort and relaxation, and all that along with the convenient amenities located at a hotel is just a booking away. You can visit Bel Air Beach Hotel on Facebook for more information or visit their website at belairbeach.com. And for those of you who are ready to make your booking right now and reserve your room at this special rate, you can do so by emailing at info@belairbeach.com. Alright folks, so you got the information about that special offer, and I also want to mention that that special is not reserved to teachers just from one side of the island. If you are a teacher on any side of the island, you have the rights to claim such a great deal. So go forth and have a great time. So for today's episode, there is still hope. Which is part of the reason why I'm wearing this shirt, by the way. Look out for more merch if you're interested in any St. Martin's Sweet merchandise. It is coming to you soon. But there were 2 stories of 2 students who graduated primary school and will now be heading into high school. And it inspired me deeply. It touched me deeply. Not just because I kind of saw myself in the 2 students, but because even with what I am experiencing in life, their story really helped to give me encouragement. So the first student I want to speak about is actually Cantave Hodge. Cantave Hodge is a student who graduated from the Prince William Alexander School, and she was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. Now, what makes her story so interesting is that that was not the only thing that she had to deal with. It's not just because she's a special needs student, or someone with a disability who attended a special needs school and she graduated, because there were other students who did. But the story behind the fight, the faith really that she had and that her family had, and to show you why it is so important to have hope no matter what. So the first thing that stood out is the fact that she was extremely premature. So it wasn't that just she was a premature baby, so when I saw that word, extremely premature, so come to find out that at that moment is when she was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. She really did. And to see that, they really didn't expect her, to live. And worse yet, here in St. Martin, we don't have the facilities to be able to really provide care, for babies and children who are born prematurely. So she had to be flown away. But despite that, she defied odds just by the fact that typically, children from that school don't even sit the entrance exam, the foundation-based education entrance exam, so the FBE. But because her teachers saw potential in her, somebody saw that despite what they see on the outside, despite the challenges that she had to overcome and really work even harder than other students, to be able to succeed, she had potential. She had the ability to be able to succeed. And because they worked on that hope, on that faith, on that fact, look at where she is today. So kudos to the teacher who did that. And so she sat the exams, and it not only allowed her to graduate valedictorian, but to be accepted in some of the top academic schools. Now, there's always this discussion about, making education more equitable and systematic, and that will be its own podcast. But to continue with Kishanti's story, besides being born premature and so having to face, a life where she had to push so much harder to literally be able to sit and breathe, one of the things that took place while she was, still a baby was the fact that she had a stomach infection, and her parents were told because of that she would have 1 day to live. But look at her right now in her big old age, and I say that in a good sense. Look at her right now, from being told you have a day to live because of what is wrong, what is not good inside of you, and I understand, it's medicine, doctors can only go based on what they've learned, but hope, faith, it has power. So she was already told she has 1 day to live, but she overcame that odds. And if that wasn't enough, imagine as a parent, okay, you're finally, you're a bit at ease because you were told that your child basically may not live to see tomorrow. They managed to live. So to add on top of that, she also received an issue where, because of a medical complication, she was told that one of her hands she wouldn't be able to use because that complication left her without 4 fingertips. So being told that you won't be able to use your hand, and then 4 of your fingertips being gone because of that complication, guess what though? She still has command of that hand. She can make full use of that hand. And so as life continued, naturally her parents, went through some struggles, some tough time, dealing with, having a preemie baby and then raising her. And as she began to make progress in life, one of the things that they encountered was that when she started walking, she would be walking, in a stooping position, and that brought her much pain whenever she walked. So you could only imagine what it's like already having a child that was born with complications, having issues, with using her hand and having to, go to whether it's a therapist and so forth to be able to allow her to reach the position where she could have command of that hand, that very hand where she lost 4 of her fingertips, 4 of them, not just 1 but 4 of them. She grew, developed, and boom, they found out that she had another issue. What was the issue? Whenever she walked, she would walk in a stooping position, and that created pain, as she walked. And so they went to find out, well, what is wrong again? What's happening with our daughter? And just for those of you who may not know, cerebral palsy is a group of disorders that affects a person's ability to move and maintain balance and posture. So cerebral meaning that has to do with the brain, and palsy means weakness or problems with using the muscles. So she's coming at school, and she's coming to school using a walker or a stroller, and seeing other children run freely, seeing other children be normal basically, and while she has a disability, but that did not stop her. And there's one thing I want to add right there, which is the fact that one of the things she shared, which we know happens, and some of us went through it or some of us did it, which is bullying and bullying. She had to go through that, and that little side note there, it's so important that we teach children not to bully others, not to make fun of others because of what makes them different, but know that everyone has a story and everyone has value. Everyone does, everyone does, simply put. And the reason children bully is not just because they're children, but oftentimes because adults are the worst bullies. Adults are the ones calling them names, making fun of them, teasing them, screaming at them, shouting at them, poking fun of them. And that has to change, folks. But nonetheless, we're sticking on this positive note. So despite all that she had to go through and what she faced, she believed that she had what it takes. So already the teacher knew that she had potential, to actually do a good job in this exam. But she also believed as an individual, as a child, that she could have, with hard work, she could have made it. And so, one thing that was so beautiful to read was that even though when she entered the school and she wasn't really able to walk and run, like the other children, she eventually was able to. And that's such a beautiful thing. But I love that she emphasized the sacrifices that had to be made to be able to pass, to sit the exam and pass, to be able to make it to some of the top schools on the island, even though she actually now wants to go to the Sandaya school because she has a passion and a vision of becoming a chef and owning her own restaurant. But nonetheless, she sacrificed her break time. So while other children were playing, she was busy studying and working, putting extra time in the carnival break, while others perhaps, maybe didn't. She made sure, make use of that time to work extra hard to make it. And, that is something that we can learn from. Sometimes we feel like we're missing out in life, or we feel even guilty for making sacrifices because we won't get to connect or be with our friends or family. But listen, if you have a vision, if you have a goal or something that you want to accomplish that would put your life in a better position, then there are times where you need to make separations. It's not that you forget people or you totally excommunicate people, but that you set your priorities. And thank God for her parents who helped her alongside that, and her teachers as well, that helped her remember that her priority right now was in making sure she was able to learn and pass the exam. Because we don't want our children to just be able to pass the exam, to say, oh, well, my child is smart. We want them to be able to think as well. But she made the sacrifices. And sometimes we gotta ask ourselves, what sacrifice are we afraid of making that would really give us the boost to be hopeful? Because her story reminds me of this scripture, that many people quote, whether they believe in God or not, which is, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And so her commitment to studying, making the sacrifice to learn so that she can prove herself right, to that skill, the talent, the ability that is in her, despite the outside disability, the outside look, she knew that she had some substance inside of her, something that existed, something that was very real, although others couldn't see it. Faith is a substance of things hoped for. She has hope to be able to be like other children, not to be exactly like them, but to show that she has value no matter what she is going through in her life. The evidence of things not seen. The evidence was that she knew she could have. And so can you. What is it, that you could specifically do that you're not doing? That is the evidence of the thing that is not seen, but it will only become seen when you take it out from the inside and put it into practice. That's really it. So what I want to say is, again, kudos to Kishanti Hodge, her parents, her family, the teachers who were persistent, who worked alongside her, and who helped her to blossom. That right there, that is so special. And so the other student that I want to make mention of is that of Juan Diego Febres Gonzalez. So Juan, I really hope I said his name correctly, Juan Diego Febres Gonzalez. And he is a young boy who came to St. Martin from Venezuela, did not speak any English whatsoever, like at all. And to add on top of that, not only that he didn't speak English, he also didn't speak Dutch. And his story was one that touched me so deeply because of the studies that I'm currently engaged in with, making the decision to study law in Dutch. So this little boy came to St. Martin with his family. His father came to St. Martin a year before. His father was able to get a job, work here, and take care of his family. But eventually they had to move. And when they came here, as he shared, they came with one suitcase each. And yeah, he had to go through the works of being a migrant child. So not even just being born here with migrant parents, but being a migrant himself, and then trying to fit into our society, try to understand our culture and make friends and be able to be open and to have the skills, the talents, the ability that he has within himself, for that to be able to be cultivated. It is so scary. When you speak to people who are not from here, people who come from elsewhere, even like I could say for children like me who our parents come from elsewhere, and you hear their stories, especially at the time when they had no internet, it really makes you respect them because of what they had to endure. But even in this age, it is still tough. But thankfully, one of the things he shared was that besides having teachers and other people who believed in him and helped him, he had other students at school, especially classmates, who knew Spanish, and they were able to help him along the way. And that in itself, I mentioned that because that highlights the power of community, right? And there are many people on St. Martin who speak more than one language. And we have to recognize that we live in a special place. We live in a special place, and there are skills that we have to develop, because you never know, such as learning another language, because you never know who you are able to impact, whose life you can make a difference in. And so this boy, again, had to make the sacrifice. His parents definitely wants to make sure he does well in school, but even he himself, he wants to be able to make jokes and laugh and understand what's happening and learn and develop himself. He made a sacrifice, doing extra lessons. He even had extracurricular activities. So he was involved with swimming and music. And that in itself is challenging. But today, and he's from the Martin Luther King School, he's valedictorian. He graduated top of his class and will now be heading to the St. Dominic High School. So to make it personal and to highlight why I felt so strongly about sharing this for today's episode, is that I look at the lives of these two children and I'm like, there is so much we can do to cultivate, to extract the vast ability, the knowledge, the skills, the talents that every child has on St. Martin. There's a factor that is needed though. Parents, teachers need to believe in children, period. Need to believe in their child, need to believe in our youth. But also what's necessary is that while we have situations where sometimes environments are not conducive for children to really grow and learn, households, and also there is still levels of inequality in our society, it is no excuse not to commit to doing the work to overcome. You can overcome as long as you have hope. That is why I'm saying there is still hope. Because look at what these children are able to do. So imagine me, what we can do to truly shift this island, to make St. Martin sweet. There's great potential, there's great work that can be done and that needs to be done. And when I look at the story of Mr. Gonzalez, the young boy, that really stood out to me because a little personal confession, throughout this journey of going back to school to study law, there has been so many instances. There have been so many instances where I felt like maybe I should put this out for the future. I don't want to do this anymore. Truly, it was like, yes, it's good, and I committed to it. I even made an announcement about it, but it's hard. I don't feel like it. You don't feel like it, but guess what? You committed to it. Do you have hope that? And I'm saying that it's like I'm speaking to myself. But do you have hope that you can make it? Yes, I do. Then continue, because because I look at his story, like he came from Venezuela. So come from there, not knowing English and not knowing Dutch and excelling in that. I'm like, man, I learned a little Dutch in school. I learned Dutch in Mac School and Academy. I could do this, man. I can. So despite the feeling of being inadequate, which I could imagine when young Miss Hodge would be in school and you're seeing all the children maybe on the swings and doing certain stuff that you would want to do, but you can't. But you can do. You can. You can, or you can do something. You just can. I believe I can. These things are sometimes cliche, but they have power once you believe, once you have hope. And so I look at their lives, I'm like, you know what? This undertaking is so scary because it's something new. And even if you fail, because I shared a story, because there's always a part of, we look at people who are successful and we look at what made them stars. Oh, you are amazing. You made, sometimes our model of success is just money. You made X amount of money, so you're successful. But what about the periods when you had to endure having nothing, having to be in debt, having to beg and ask others, right? So the journey is something we need to appreciate because it's tough. That journey towards accomplishing a goal, it's tough. The journey towards wanting to see a better St. Martin, it's tough. Towards better elected officials, it's tough. But we have to commit to it. We really do. So I was saying that as a reminder to myself, man, it's tough. So you can fail. There are people who fail. Everyone has failed. Anyone you look up to has failed. But even if you fail, so outside of just the glory moment, the crowning factor, outside of that, even in failure, there is hope. Even in failure, there's hope. So to end off for today's episode, one of the things that I wanted to share, and it seems like I'll also do this on my social media, just for the sake of time, but is to encourage you to take advantage of opportunities that are out there. For those of you who have the means, there are many stuff for children to do. We often say, ain't got nothing for the youth to do. There is. The access or the awareness is what needs improvement. And I think I'll probably focus on an episode that highlights all the different youth groups, the clubs, the organizations, and opportunities that exist. I think that is needed. And, there's a youth department. They should be doing that as well. But nonetheless, I ain't gonna complain. I'm gonna just do the work. That's what I believe, right? But there are opportunities for you to take advantage of if you have the means to. Now, what is so necessary though, and what hurts, is that there are so many families and children who can't take part of stuff that would be able to allow them to, be expressive and shine because they don't have the resources. And we need to be able to tackle that issue in providing resources so that children don't feel like, well, yeah, I went bubblegum school and my parents ain't from here, I am a foreigner, I have no hope, there's nothing for me on St. Martin. That is a lie. There is a future for you. There is. There absolutely is. And I hope that my life is one that could be an example to that. Because, yeah, it ain't easy being bullied, especially, when people bully you just because of where your parents come from. But don't let the rejection keep you down. Have hope. Have hope. So, folks, I could go on this, but I will leave it right there. And to say that there is still hope for St. Martin. There is still hope for St. Martin. One final opportunity that I forgot to mention that I think that has been out for a good while and that more people I find should take advantage of is the Learn Smart program for the St. Martin Development Fund, the SMDF. This Learn Smart program, and it's available to everyone, where you could sign up for accredited courses to improve upon your skills, your knowledge, or to learn a new skill, gain knowledge that could very well help you and your future, help change your family, your financial position. But you have to want it. You have to take advantage of such opportunities. I'm not kind of going around in circles, but I think it will make it its own podcast to highlight opportunities, things that would benefit you, benefit your family, benefit St. Martin as a whole. So I just want to thank you for joining me on this episode. God bless you, and be sure to support. We're doing a lot of good work here. This is episode 6, and there will be so many more impactful topics that will be discussed. We're really going to be getting into some deep issues, some taboo discussions that I know make people feel like, yeah, let's not talk about that. Issues of abuse, gambling, our tourism economy, homosexuality, and this new gender ideology that we're seeing coming out right now, but as well as mental health and other related topics. So we're going to be having a great time here on this podcast. And again, I want to thank you for joining me. God bless you, and see you again until next time. Take care.